Hi, Misha here, and this is a bit of a special story time episode. We're out here at the cabin in an early fall day or evening now, much like one nearly 20 years ago when I purchased this, which was my first Kalashnikov ever, my SAR-1 made in Romania. These were imported between 1999 and 2003 and replaced by the Wasser 10 we all know and love. This was the first AK I ever bought, and I bought it new from the Armory, a local store up in northwest Arkansas. And the day we bought it, a day much like today, we brought it out to this exact location and shot this gun at this exact location nearly exactly 20 years ago. And I thought, you know, I try to bring this out at least once a year, run a few rounds through it, show it some love. And it felt like that time again. So with no further ado, let's put a mag through my very first AK that I've owned for, at this point, a majority of my adult life. SAR-1.
Good as new.
Yeah, practically. Probably looks about the same considering how these look new out of the box.
Pretty much.
So, as you saw, still shoots and shoots reliably. And a gun like this, thousands of rounds, tens of years, it only makes it smoother and more dependable. And this is just a basic AKM type gun. This came in at a time when they still allowed them to have double stack mag wells. These don't have to be cut out. When I bought it new, it shipped with one surplus 30 round mag and one new production 10 round mag. Notice the mag well dimples. And it's pretty unchanged from when I bought it new. I did swap out the original wood furniture. It was very similar to this, but the problem, the wood buttstock was a little loose when I bought it new. When these come into the country, they have a thumbhole stock. And so Century would put on a pistol grip and stock. Well, maybe the screw hole was oversized or the stock slot was undersized. I couldn't really tighten it down enough to get the wiggle out. So at that time, so-called Romy G furniture with the dong, notice the black stripe, that was everywhere. So I just bought a set for like 20 bucks and threw it on. It was one of the first times I ever put wood on an AK. This gun was really my learner gun. And of course this was sold during the '94 assault weapons ban, so it had no bayonet lug and did not have a threaded barrel. Now I haven't messed with the bayonet lug here. It doesn't have one. I never really thought it was worth it. But I did thread the barrel 14x1 left hand years ago, and I jokingly said, well, I'm going to go to all the trouble of threading it, putting in the detent, and then I'm just going to put a muzzle nut on it. That's exactly what I did, but it can come off. It's tightened down quite a bit right now, but you know, it's threaded if I ever do want to put something on. But the original Romanian guns, like the PM63s, they usually just had a nut. So otherwise, it's as originally shipped. Like I said, original 1.0 stamped receiver with the scope rail, 16¼ inch chrome line, old hammer forged barrel. Now it's got a dong. Oh, and it originally came with a canvas sling. I put this leather one on it a long time ago. Why not? But just more of a nostalgia trip. I try to get this out, but in the last several years, it's been shooting at other places. It's been a long time, 5 or 6 years since it's been out here at the cabin. But this really was the first place. We had stayed up that night before watching Red Dawn, and alcohol may or may not have been involved that night. And so the next morning, I was kind of hanging out with some old high school friends. We went to the local store because they told me you couldn't buy an AK after the '94 assault weapons ban. And I said, sure you can. They just changed them a little bit. So we had a little wager, kind of betting that morning's breakfast, who pays, on if I could just walk in and buy an AK. And obviously I did. They had this, and they had the Egyptian Misr Mahdi. And I considered the Egyptian gun, but I just like the Romanian better. They were the same price. And so we walked out with it, grabbed ourselves a late breakfast, early lunch, grabbed some ammo, and eventually, after picking up a couple of other folks, came out here to the cabin, shot it, and it was actually getting kind of dark, about like it is now. Enough daylight to still shoot, but that was my first experience buying my own AK. Before that I had shot them, but they belonged to other people. Last mag with the SAR-1 at dark. No flash hider. So it just seemed like a good time and a good place to bring this gun back out to. Kind of feels like coming home. A lot has changed in the AK world since that time. The assault weapons ban sunset, and AKs have become a lot more popular. And just the whole internet community, and of course YouTube has formed since that time. YouTube didn't even exist way back then. Not even close to it. It's funny how the world changes, but sometimes places like this seem like they're stuck in time. They never change. And to some extent, this rifle feels that way too. It is very much a relic of the Cold War, of the early 90s and whatnot. And I love it. It's one of those guns that, you know, monetarily wise, it's not without its worth. But to me, on a sentimental level, it's without parallel. It's just one of those guns that means the world to me, and it got me into AKs because it was a good one to start with. It was treble free, didn't give me that bad taste. It was a good learner gun. If I dropped it or scratched it or needed to know how to change furniture, it was very forgiving of that, and things went from there. So we all have to start somewhere, and this was the gun I started with, AKs, and this is the place I started it with. And with that, I wanted to share that with you for this story time. But it mostly just wanted to get out and do a little shooting today. Sorry there's not more shooting footage, but with the current ammo situation, I know you understand. With that, we do appreciate you tuning in. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can check out the link to the Patreon page. Or, if you can, just liking, sharing, subscribing, all that good stuff is immensely helpful and immensely appreciated. This is Misha, and we will catch you very soon next time.